Hey, pool chasers. So our guest today started in the industry when he was just 15 years old and is a third-generation pool builder. He graduated from Oklahoma State University where he studied landscape architecture and entrepreneurship, both skills that he puts to use at his companies today. After graduation, he moved back to Celina, Texas, where he helped his family business grow from 40 to 250 pool builds a year. He has since started his own boutique agency where they focus on quality over quantity. He talks with us all about his family business, his experience on Pool Kings, what it is like working day in and day out with high-end clientele, and the transparency it takes to do so, and we even get into his awesome new adventure in the world of acrylic. So, without further ado, please enjoy episode 122 with Nick Hauk of Pure Design Group and Elemental Acrylic.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nick. We really appreciate you coming out here all the way from Dallas, Texas. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into this. You want to talk a little bit about, before we get into, who Nick Hauk is, maybe you can give us some history about, your family's history with Hauk Pools and the industry.
I'm a third generation pool designer and pool builder. I've been around it since I was a little bitty kid. Some of my first memories, to be honest, were riding around with my old man, looking at job sites and things like that. My grandfather, years ago in 1953, started a little bitty pool company up in St. Louis, Missouri, which I think is still in business. It's called Circle Pools. Back then, pools weren't really nearly as technical and as cool as they are now. They were pretty rudimentary, pretty simple. They didn't have Google or YouTube or anything like that to show them that kind of stuff. But my grandfather would take a grain silo, he'd cut it in half, he'd bury it, and he'd put an old jacuzzi, like 1 horsepower pump on it. I think they only did like 3 returns, and he'd pour a little bit of deck around it, and they were just every pool though, because it was a grain silo, they were all perfect circles. So that's why the company was called Circle Pools. Back then in '53, deck, pool shell, and a jacuzzi 1 horsepower pump retailed out. I think he said $3,300 is what he charged for everything, installed, material, labor, out the door. So obviously things have changed quite a bit from $3,300 now to some of these pools you see in the industry are $1 million plus, so things have changed.
That's insane. I mean, you could pretty much go through Circle Pools drive-through and order yourself order a pool. Like, oh yeah, that'll be no problem. $3,500. It's going to be this big. We know exactly everything about it.
Yeah, it's always a consistent product for sure. It was actually kind of cool too. He remember my granddad back when he did all this, he was in his early 20s, so he was just a young kid, and he got a call from McDonnell Douglas Aeronautics up in Missouri. He didn't know what it was other than they just asked for a test capsule to test weightlessness with the astronauts. Anyways, he went out there and built it and didn't quite put 2 and 2 together until like kind of years later that was where they tested weightlessness for the astronauts, So when he built it, it was all kind of secretive, hush hush. But when he found out years later that it was, for the astronauts, that was pretty cool to be able to build some of those first test capsules.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, and I just thought that was the coolest thing, really into space and just the weightless environment where the astronauts are always training for outer space and they're using swimming pools to do it. I mean, that was pretty much the early days of what it's turned into. Yeah. Now they're in, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water where if I wasn't doing this, I swear to God, I would be begging to go work in there. I'm like, I see at least 10 people in this video ain't doing shit. I'll do that, and monitoring. I'll have a waterproof phone. I'll run the Instagram. I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. Do it for free. But that's some really cool history. You got any photos or anything of that?
I try to track him down. I do have some, and I just could not get them quick enough. Give me a day or two. I'll email them over to you.
Yeah,
I've got like 2 photos, and it's really cool. There's like an old 1953 Chevy Coupe in the background on this family's driveway. Yeah. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
I didn't know they did that with grain silos. You cut it in half and put it in the ground.
Me either. Yeah.
That's insane. That's a good use of something else, man.
I mean, back then everybody was, it's from the Depression era, you know,
Yeah.
most of those people back then. So, I mean, it's like use what's around you, don't go buy new stuff. So I think that was kind of the mindset.
It's pretty creative. I mean, who looks at grain silence? How can I make a pool out of that?
Yeah.
Pretty
Very cool.
awesome.
Bring it back.
Right?
So how did it transition from Circle Pools into kind of just moving forward?
Yeah. So, my grandfather had that company for about 8 years. So it really wasn't even that long. Sold it. And like I said, it's still in business today, to my knowledge. Then he decided to move our family from St. Louis, Missouri down to Dallas, Texas, where we just kind of planted roots down there. We bought a little motorcycle dealership off Harry Hines Boulevard in Dallas. It was called Dallas Suzuki BMW. And so my dad and his 3 brothers grew up, assembling and selling motorcycles down in Dallas.
And what year was this?
And
Probably the 60s?
This was going to be like, let's see, mid 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, mid 70s. So we owned Dallas Suzuki BMW, off Harry Hines and Royal for years. And it was a great business. It taught my dad and his brothers a lot of really good sales knowledge. If anybody knows a car guy or somebody who sells motorcycles, it's a very high turnover, quick type environment. And so, fast forward a couple years, we sold the dealership. My dad went to go work for Riverbend Sandler, which is one of the largest pool companies and for sure Texas, if not the United States. Charles Barnes is the owner. He's a great businessman. My dad was able to get a good base there and kind of learn about the pool industry again. And so from there, we decided he worked for Riverbend for about 7 or 8 years. This would be getting into the early 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s. Learned a lot from him. I mean, that was back when Clinton was in office and everybody was getting approved for financing. So, it was, they were doing 600 plus pools a year at that company.
Wow.
So that Riverbend was based in Plano, Texas. So from there, my dad got a good base, learned a lot, and said, I want to move my kids and, my family to a smaller town. My mom grew up in a little town called Celina, Texas, which is just north of Frisco and Plano and all that. So we moved out there and, he started a pool company and, that was 20 years ago. And so it kind of grew and it's continuing to grow. It's been a good company.
Nice. And has he always just enjoyed it? Because he went from one thing to another, but it seems like once he got into pools, he just stuck with it.
Yeah, it was a natural fit, I think. Coming from, motorcycle car industry like he did, those guys don't get a whole lot of time with their kids. And I think the pool industry was a great fit because he was able to kind of set his own schedule with his clients, spend more time with his family, and not just stand on a car lot all day. So I think for him, that was the enticing part about it. And let's be honest, I mean, it's fun. I mean,
yeah,
if you're in this industry and you're not smiling every day, you shouldn't be in it, so yeah, it was good.
That's a really good point because I spent time at a motorcycle dealership and that's a really difficult gig to just kind of be there all day long and you just have to sell. And then you go back to your desk and you jump on the phone, but you're just in this tight area all day. Whereas when you're building pools, it's like nonstop where you're, at the job site or you're in your vehicle going to distribution or going somewhere else, but you're just always on the move. The scenery is always changing and you kind of get to make it what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see that being better than sitting at the dealership all day.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think it gave him a lot of good background. He worked for Lexus. He was one of the first Lexus salespeople in the United States. So it really, if you know anything about Lexus, they train their salespeople extremely aggressive and so it gave him a good base, which in the beginning, in the early days of Hauk Custom Pools, it helped him sell a lot of pools. But then, really, I think his biggest challenge in some of those early days was just building them. He was a really great sales and marketing mind, still is. But I think building them was the challenging part. And so that's kind of when my brother and I started to come of age and get out of school. I went to Oklahoma State University and studied landscape architecture up there. I kind of knew when I went into school that I would want to be in the pool business when I got out. So
right.
It was very kind of purposeful for sure.
And when did you get involved in the family business?
So I got involved 2000, 2010 is when I started selling and designing. That's really when I started to kind of grasp my design and sales.
Were you doing anything prior? I mean, like when you were like, younger?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like as a little kid, I used to I kind of my first job I can remember was just like janitorial duties. Sounds so gross, but I mean, I used to have to go, because I mean, when you run a high-end pool company, I think its appearance is everything. Mm-hmm. And so like little things like, cleanliness in the bathroom, wiping off countertops, sweeping the floors. And it really just makes kind of the client, when they come into your office, it's an important thing to see. They don't want to see clutter and mess. They want everything nice and clean.
That's really cool, because you're probably picking up on those habits at a very early age. And, we're going to talk about the companies that you own now, that you're probably bringing those over, and you don't even know any different, where it's like, dude, this appearance is everything. Mm-hmm. And we do need to keep the bathrooms clean. Those are all the little things. You can go into your favorite restaurant and it's a franchise and they're all clean, and you can go into one that was just built and the bathroom is super dirty. You go and see the tables and there's napkins and crumbs and shit everywhere. And it just puts a bad taste in your mouth, to where, I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff, where I'm like, I'll go take my money somewhere else. Yeah. Like, you're not the only person that can cook a burger.
Well, I think in like the pool industry, I think, we always lose sight. I think it's very easy to lose sight of, like, this is a very invasive process. Like, we're coming in and we're destroying your backyard for 3 to 6 months. And guess what? You can't walk your dogs, and like, there's so many things that like, I always got to tell myself, like, hey, put yourself in their shoes, because you get kind of numb to it. You do it long enough. You're like, oh, well, it's just part of the process. But, for clients who haven't built pools before, cleanliness does, I think, take a little bit of stress off the whole situation.
It's funny how they might say they understand, but it's funny how they kind of don't. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my God, what did you do to my backyard? Yeah, well, in order for us to get to that point, we're going to have to destroy it. It's going to look like a meteor just hit your backyard.
It's like my favorite question is like, what's going to happen to my sprinklers? Like, well, about your sprinklers, we're going to destroy them.
They gone.
They gone.
We're going to get you some grass that doesn't need sprinklers.
Did you, like in teenage years or anything, work there in the summers or clean pools, or what were you doing?
Yeah, so we had a maintenance end of my dad's company back then. So after I kind of graduated from the janitorial duty, I got into cleaning and maintenance. That really just kind of taught me the fundamentals and the basics of it. My dad's really good at doing the same thing over and over again. So all his equipment pads are exactly the same, and so it made it kind of easy to grasp the general functions of just a pool equipment set. After that, I got into like installing drain lines, the physical construction labor side of things, which taught me one thing really quick. I don't want to do that the rest of my life. So, it definitely put some hair on my chest, but, also taught me a lot in the process too.
Yeah, we always talk about, like, it must be nice when you're servicing just those pools with the exact same equipment pads, the exact same kind of design, and you're getting to do that every day or every pool, because you can see kind of the same pool every time, and that's a big benefit, I think, when you're servicing pools, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're one of these, big box builders like my dad, or like a Riverbend Sailor, I mean, I think doing the same thing over and over and over again, there's some validity in that for sure. But, I also think when you start to get a little more custom and do stuff more unique, you just can't do that anymore. It's got to be specific to the pool. So It just kind of depends on the builder.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have any other siblings involved in the business?
I do. I've got a brother named Clay Hauk. Clay is great. He's way smarter than me. He's like super smart. Actually, it's kind of funny. He got a job offer to go work for Google, like right out of college. Like, he's that smart. And he decided to go work for my old man instead. So, he brought a lot of his knowledge into the industry, which, I mean, he calls me like once a week, like, dude, look at this new, concept. Look what I'm doing here. And like, what he does is he manages pool builders' online reputations, does a lot of their marketing, sets up processes and systems for their employees to where things are just a little bit easier for the owners. So he's been on a consultant type base, but he's been working with builders all the way from Canada down to Houston.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Very good. And is that, you have any other siblings?
I've got a little sister named Haley. She is actually just found out she's pregnant, which is kind of crazy. Wow. She's the first girl in the Hauk family in 5 generations. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a big thing. Anytime something happens with Haley, everybody's like, whoa, because we're not used to having girls in the family. So no, she's a sweetheart. Yeah, she just got married a couple years ago, and they're having their first kid. She lives in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've, been following you for a while, and we just love that, you've got a really cool brand with your companies, but also that, you enjoy life to the fullest. And I think that some of our favorite builders have a knack for living life, because at the end of the day, building swimming pools, which is a lifestyle move, you're putting that experience in a backyard, and somebody that, you enjoy boating and hunting and spending time with your, new fiance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
She's
maybe
way out of
you're,
my league. It's bad. It's bad. Way out of my
I
league.
think she's one of your models, right?
Yeah, she is. Well, she was a dancer for the Dallas Stars hockey team for when I first met her. So she was, our first 2 years of dating.
Yeah, you're
Just-
right, dude. Totally.
Yeah,
out of
just
it.
way out of my league, bro. Yeah, I outkicked my coverage big time with her. But no, she's a sweetheart. Yeah, we just got engaged, and our wedding is going to be after the first of the year, so coming up pretty quick.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does she enjoy doing all the, man, you seem like you just doing a lot.
Yeah, got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, she I think gets it, the pool industry side of things. She's got, what I love about her, she kind of does her thing with dance, and then I do my stuff with the pools, and we come home every night, and
I like that. That's a good model.
She's got her life, and I've got mine in the pool world, and she gets it, and she understands that, like, if you're a busy pool builder, your phone doesn't stop ringing sometimes of the year. And I mean, like, I counted it up one day. I had 170 phone calls one day.
Wow.
It gets thick, and she gets it, and I think you definitely need somebody behind you, to run any successful company. You need somebody behind you that kind of gets it, so.
Most definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're into, people might not know, but, what do you enjoy doing at this, point in time?
Yeah, man. Like you said, I love to hunt and fish. That's my first love. To me, getting in the great outdoors and turning off your phone is one of the simple pleasures that I think more people should do. So that's, kind of my big hobby. I've got a dog named Frank. He's super cool. He goes hunting with me everywhere.
Yeah, Frank is famous, man. I see him all over the place.
He is. He's been on YouTube. He's been all over the place. He's actually funny. So when I worked for my dad, quick story, my dad's got an office on a real busy road, and I'm sitting there in my office and I'm looking out the road, cars passing by, and this little black lab comes up to my window and sits down. I'm like, that's weird, because it's kind of out in the country, so you wouldn't necessarily expect, a stray dog. You figured it was someone's dog. And anyways, I tried to give him like all 30 of our employees. Nobody would take him home, and so I took him home that evening and played fetch with him, and he just sat down and looked at me like, give me a command. And so that kind of slowly progressed into my hunting dog. So he's a total stray dog. He's a street kid. That's what I tell everybody. But man, he's a cool one. He's for sure cool.
It's totally the adopted kid.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So can you maybe share with us, some of the experiences of being in a family business, and, we're going to transition now into, your new pool design and build company, but maybe you could just talk about that, because we know that, that can't be easy for both sides of it, for you and your father and, other family members that might be involved in this family business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the pool industry is kind of unique in a sense. There's a lot of family businesses. I don't know why it's like that. I guess it's kind of, once you're in the game, it's hard to get out. But
I think because there's a lot of trust that you need to have.
Yeah.
You're in people's backyards, and there's just so many things going on that it's like, it seems safer if you're with people that you can trust, I guess.
Well, and I think it's a lot of, you can't just Google this stuff. I mean, you can, but not really. I mean, I think it's just passed down knowledge too. Probably has a lot to do with it. But, it was kind of interesting, just kind of how my company, Pure Design, came about. Working for my dad was such a blessing for so many years, and I learned so much. One thing I'll say is a challenge with a family business is just I think Lee Russell put it great the other day when I was listening to your podcast. He said that, when you go like to Christmas or these family events, everybody just talks about pools. And It's so true. I mean, we go to, like, I've got uncles that are in the pool business as well. You know, my dad's got 3 brothers. They're all have their own pool companies in DFW. So when we all get together, it's just like nothing but pool talk. And I think, you know, that's cool for a while, but years and years and years of that, it strains relationships. And so my story is, you know, we were trucking right along. When I got out of college, my dad was doing 60 pools a year. When I left, we were doing about 300 pools a year. So things really grew quite a bit between my brother and I, helping him out. Unfortunately, my parents went through an extremely nasty divorce. I guess the whole thing started about 5 years ago. And it was really tough on our family. Growing up in Celina, Texas, we were that, you know, small town type Friday Night Lights vibe everywhere. You know, we had one of the biggest businesses in Celina, so everybody knew the Hauk family, grew up there. My mom went to school there. So it was a very public divorce. And it was just tough, you know. It's hard as a child to be able to be forced almost to pick sides. You know, and it made it really tough on my brother and I to really see like right from wrong and like have clarity on a situation when you're working in it every day with them. And like hearing your mom cry to you and then hearing your dad tell you something else, like it's tough. So it got to the point to where my brother and I were like, dude, we got to do something different. This is too much. And my brother agreed with me. And then right about then, it's kind of like when the whole TV show thing happened with Pool Kings. And so, you know, all that stuff's going on. I missed all that as well, and things got pretty crazy. So I just decided to leave, and you know, it's been good for me so far, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, that's got to be so difficult. You know, you kind of have this. I don't know. People look at it as like this perfect life, you know, and everybody, you know, in town knows who you are, and you know, something like that happens and it just disrupts everything. You probably had to handle that adversity real early on in life, you know what I mean? Where you might not have had to deal with things before, but sometimes getting through that helps you get through other little things in life. Because stuff that has to do with your parents, you know, it just seems like that hits more at home where it's easier to handle other things in life, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, going through it obviously is not fun, but like it does teach you a lot. Taught me a lot of things about my new marriage, you know, going into my relationship with my fiance, you know, everything from that to business. I mean, it does teach you so much to go through something like that as an older kid. You know, I was in my late 20s when all this stuff went down. So, you know, it wasn't like a little kid when my parents were getting divorced. And I was so fed up with it. When I left, I was like, dude, I'm not even going to be in the pool business anymore. Like, I want to go be a hunting guide. I want to live in the mountains. Like, I don't want anybody to call me. Like, I just want to be left alone. And like, I was dead set on that. Right after I left, you know, I'd never been married, don't have any kids. I had this little house out in Celina where my dad's business is. And right after I left, my house flooded. And I had 15,000 gallons of water come from the upstairs.
Oh my!
So it's like everything in my house was destroyed. So fast forward a little bit, things got so bad, I lived in a van in my driveway for about 8 months. That's how like people talk about rock bottom. And this is all, you know, after I left my dad's awesome pool company. And there was many a nights when I laid in that little van or that RV, whatever you want to call it, death trap. You'd lay in that little thing, and I would lay in bed at night and be like, man, am I stupid for walking away from this? You know, am I like crazy from walking away? And then there's still times when I think about that. So there was it's an emotional roller coaster for sure for a couple of years. You know, that's kind of how Pure was born. You know, after that, you know, I just kept getting phone calls to build pools, and I got to the point where I was like, man, I need money. Like I'm you know, hard on my luck right now. And so I ended up going to go build one. And that's kind of how Pure was born. So it's kind of interesting how life throws you lemons sometimes, you know. Yeah,
and you're just rolling with the punches. Glad you didn't just run to the mountains and turn your phone off. Right? Been a waste of talent right there. You and Frank up there in the mountains.
Yeah, that's right. Frank would like it.
I bet.
Here at Pool Chasers, we're all about sharing information so that you can become even more knowledgeable pool professionals. The folks at Pentair get that. And to show their appreciation, we invite you to enroll in the Pentair Partners Incentive Program. This flexible and simple program rewards you for your loyalty, starting with your very first sale of Pentair equipment or systems. Not only that, but being a partner gives you immediate and exclusive access to programs and training events. all which are developed to help drive even more business to your door. So to start earning rewards, visit pentairpartners.com or click the link in the write-up below.
Yeah, so you mentioned Pool King's experience. Can you tell us a bit more about that with your brother?
I'll have to give it to my brother. Like I made fun of him for like a long time because he would always like, dude, we should do this thing on TV. I'm like, bro, I'm too busy. Like, we don't have time for this. Like, we're building pools, we're making money. Why do we want to do this? You know, he just was very persistent. And, you know, he ended up, it was just kind of a fate thing. He went to a friend's wedding out on the West Coast. And there happened to be a TV producer there from HGTV, and you know, he was just having a drink, just talking to him casually. And the guy asked, you know, what do you do? And he's like, well, you know, I work in a family pool business. And so that's kind of how the conversation started with Discovery Channel and HGTV and DIY and all that.
So that's how it happens. I always wondered how it happens.
Man, you know, but you know, it's kind of crazy. It was a lot that I learned about doing that whole TV thing. So, like, for example, I thought it was kind of weird. So, like, when they find you, I've always thought, like, oh, okay, well, once they find their talent, they want to use you, like, you just sit back and do your thing. Like, no, you got to, like, pay to try out to get on the show. So, it's like, wanted, like, $10K. I think, yeah, they wanted $10,000 to film a pilot episode. And, of course, my dad and I were like, no way, Clay. You know, talking about my brother, like, we're not paying $10K to possibly maybe be on TV. Like, no. And because it still wasn't a guarantee. Like, you pay $10K, record an episode, and you're still not guaranteed to be aired. Zodiac, our equipment manufacturer at the time, heard about us saying no to it, and they're like, oh, hell no. Like, you boys are going to do it, and we're going to write the check for it, you know? So Zodiac stroked the check for the pilot episode, which was very gracious to everybody at Zodiac.
That's awesome.
To do that for us. So that really, they're the real MVPs behind the scenes. Zodiac, I don't think we could have done any of that without them. So stroke the check. About 4 or 5 weeks later, man, they send like a whole crew of people from LA. I mean, like makeup, camera. I mean, like 12 people like would just move to Dallas for months and watch us build this pool. Yeah, it was a crazy experience. We found a really fun family to do it. It's a guy that I knew pretty well going into the project. And they lived on a big horse ranch out in Aubrey, Texas. So it kind of gave that whole Texas vibe, you know, the episode. And, you know, but it's crazy. Some of the things, like little tidbits of like fun facts. So like if you look at like one of the last scenes of the episode, it's like wintertime. Like we're approaching Christmas and like the director's like hammering us to get everything done. And all the grass is dead. Like that time of year in Texas, like grass is dormant. And like the director's like, dude, we can't take drone shots with like brown grass everywhere. They bought spray paint, like green spray paint, and they spray painted this entire backyard green just to give it the appearance that we weren't shooting in the winter. So there's like all these crazy little nuanced, you know, tricks and stuff that they do that I just never knew, you know, never thought about that.
Yeah, it's just whatever it takes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They must have just the craziest process because these big networks are just putting out so many shows. I mean, when they come, they just get in a hotel, and it just seems like, are they very process driven, like every little thing? Yeah,
so you've got the director, then you've got a showrunner. The showrunner is really the person that like, it's like mom, like, you know, like she's everything. Like you schedule every day. I mean, everybody answers to her. So it was wild. It definitely was an experience for sure.
Were you meeting with them like every single day, or was this?
I couldn't build pools like normally. Like I had to like take a pause from like my dad's business and stop building pools for a while. Yeah, because it was just, I mean, I was out there every day, you know. And the thing that was exhausting about it is like, to say we're digging today, like you'd have to say we're digging today like 5 or 10 different ways, you know. And so like by the time like you get done with doing an interview, you're like so worn out. So like I really didn't think it'd be that hard of a gig, but man, I've got like a lot of mad respect for like Lucas Lagoons and like some of these people that have been doing these TV shows for a while, because dude, it's mentally exhausting like after a day of shooting.
Oh, because it's like no bad days.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of shows out there where you can, they want you to have bad days, but for, you know, something like Pool Kings, you know, you got to be upbeat and totally in it. Like you're having a bad day. You're like, well, that's
no such thing. Like, everything's
you have
happy.
to change that.
Like wipe it off your face. Everything's happy. Like it was crazy.
And then you got like, you know, the slide was too big, right? And then your igniter for the fire, like, was that all real?
Yeah, so like that's like one common thing that I've always thought about like these shows. I'm like, oh, they're staged. Like, it could be different with other shows, but at least with ours, like there was nothing staged. Like we really had a hard time getting it lit. And like, I remember trying to light that fire pit, and I look back at one of my technicians who was standing, you know, behind the camera and said, figure out how to get this damn thing lit, you know? And then the director's like, no. Like, I want the drama. Like, no, let's film this. I'm like, I don't want people to know I can't light this fire pit on national television, you know? But like, they love the drama, you know? And so, yeah, it was, you know, and you look at these shows, they wouldn't really be as fun or entertaining if you didn't have a little bit of that. So,
Yeah.
But that's all real shit.
yeah.
You know, when you're building a whole backyard experience pool, shit's going to happen. Something's going to happen. It happens to everybody. Can't always be perfect. So it's cool that you got a little bit of a glimpse of that. So did that help in any kind of like marketing efforts?
Yeah, it did. It grew. You know, my dad's following really big. Their company got a lot of interest. You know, as far as leads, it's hard to really say. You know, you get a lot of like recognition industry, and there's still backyards that I go into all the time. People are like, oh, you're from Pool Kings. Like, people remember. But I mean, other than the experience, I can't say that it really like drove a ton of revenue. At least if it did, there's no way for me to measure it.
Yeah, it's probably got to be a little bit. You probably see more for like Lucas because he has a dedicated show, Insane Pools, to doing that. So I think it's probably a little bit more difficult if you did like a show that was a couple years ago or something like that, and it doesn't, you know, it's not seen as frequently.
Yeah.
But still, that's got to be just the experience, you know, even if it didn't pay off huge, like just to say that you've been on TV and got to do it, you know, side by side with your brother, that's a pretty cool thing too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was, like I said, working with my brother was great. And it was just fun, just understanding the process behind TV, you know, and how something gets, you know, on your TV screen. There's a lot that goes into it.
I'm sure that's got to be huge for you too, because you're super into kind of taking rad photos and videos and different things like that. So seeing how big companies keep it so organized so that they can just kind of dish it out quick. I'm sure it was cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, it taught me like a lot of things too that like I try to relay in my own business. So going to my company, Pure Design, right when we were filming that whole TV show and all that was going down with the divorce and all that, we wrapped the TV show, and then like I said, I was kind of done with the pool industry for a while. Just wanted to take a break. And then, you know, that's when I started Pure Design shortly after the TV show. So it kind of grew into, you know, a big animal that I'd never expected it to grow into. But, you know, one of the things I took from the TV show that I show in a lot of my Pure Design photos and our Instagram and stuff is we use models in our photos. It's kind of unique to the pool industry. I kind of got that concept from the whole TV show. I mean, because the pool's beautiful by itself, but people want to see how do you use these things, you know? And so we've really tried to do that in some of our marketing, and it's really been great.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of reminds me too of like Ledge Lounger. They were one of the first to kind of start putting people. I mean, they're not people I hang out with. I mean, they're like really good looking people. Not that you guys aren't all good looking, but and these are like, you know, tens out there by the pool.
Yeah.
But it definitely it's crazy how much different a pool looks when you've got people playing games and splashing in the water, and even like the kids jumping into the pool with their parents and stuff like that. It's I think it's a huge difference when looking at photos and videos of that on social media and your website than just kind of the pool by itself.
It's not just a hole in the ground anymore. I mean, everybody knows that. It's the kitchen, it's the patio, it's the turf. You know, I had a guy the other day, we're doing a soccer field, you know, in his backyard. It's
soccer field shit.
Yeah, I mean,
only in Texas, right?
I got one better. I did a 2-story gun range on the back of a pool years ago in Texas. Yeah, kind of crazy.
Damn.
The guy, and it was a change order. It wasn't even designed in. Like, we had the pool just about done. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, can you draw up a gun range and put it in the back of the pool? And I'm like, dude, seriously? We did. And it was super cool. It was like 2 stories, had granite countertops and a little clay skeet thrower underneath it. And
what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Cool. Yeah. So you like get out of the pool, climb up in the tower, you know, shoot your clay birds, and hop back in the hot
Bass
tub.
Pro Shop or something.
Sweet.
That's insane. That's so cool. Oh,
That's
man.
awesome. So let's go back to you in the van. You know, when you're gonna start this Pure Design group, like what happened? What changed your mentality?
For me, it was, I think what changed my mentality was I saw kind of I don't want to call them flaws, but some of the challenges with my dad's operation. And I'm a people pleaser. Like I can't stand it when somebody's upset. Like that's my thing. I want to make sure everybody's happy. And for me at my dad's, it was really tough because like I would draw this incredible $200,000-$300,000 pool or whatever and hand it over to a project manager who just quite frankly didn't care. And to see like the client's disappointment on their face just got me. Like I don't know how to describe it other than that. It just kind of upset me. It's like, dude, I'd be mad. Like if that was my brother-in-law and he's forking out 150, 200K for a pool, like I want it to be done right. And not that, my old man doesn't build a nice pool. It's just different. Those big production style pool companies, it's like pumping out commercial furniture or anything else. It's just not a whole lot of fit and finish or not a whole lot of detail level with it. So I knew there was a niche in the DFW market for a higher end type pool company. Before I started Pure, there was maybe 2 pool companies in the area that I would consider like extremely high end type design build firms, but there's just a lot of the big box builders. And so I didn't really know if it would work. Pure Design started, to be honest, I thought I would just design pools and just outsource them and sell my designs. And I realized really quickly that people want me building, not designing. Not that I can't design. I love designing. But I think one of the things about Pure Design that makes us unique is the designers actually build the pools. Like we don't have project managers.
Oh, really?
So it's just easier if you're a designer building the pool, running the schedule, checking the work, quality of work and all that stuff. It's easier to deliver these crazy concepts and these crazy designs to people.
Yeah. So you're taking the process from the very beginning all the way through, basically, right? Following up on it, checking, make sure things are being done right. Yeah. That's a pretty cool concept.
So it's, having a project manager is nice, but they just don't tend to care about the look as much as like what a designer would.
So what does that process look like then? If you meet with a client, design a pool, what happens after that?
Yeah, so we charge a retainer fee. So before we show up to their house, the client completes a deposit link, pays us to come out and actually give them a consultation. We walk through our concept, our ideas. It takes us about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll come up with a drawing for them. Price it out. We build our own pricing system, so we price it all internally. And I think too, going back to like what made you want to start Pure Design, anybody out there who's listening to this who's thinking about starting a pool company, get yourself a good pricing system. Something as simple as Excel or some of these other softwares that are out there now, because that really kind of helped grow our business to something a lot better than what it was if I didn't have that.
And what do you mean pricing system? I mean, you're talking about like sub labor and equipment, everything. How many you're trying your best to figure out how many man hours your subs are going to be working on these projects. Is that what you're talking about?
So everything? Like coming from my dad's company, where my dad came from, it was like very like car dealership type mentality. So we would have clients in and we'd have to do revisions, price the pool, and close them. Like it was that kind of mentality before they left. Like we'd do it in an hour and a half. So it became a time thing, like who can price these pools the fastest? And so for us, we started building basically an Excel spreadsheet on steroids. We use that to price all of our pools. So now it's like kind of a game, like how quickly can we price one and still be accurate? So that's something that I think has helped us be successful for sure, is having, a good pricing system in place to actually price these projects, because you can draw them all day long and a lot of people can build them too, but pricing them is another animal.
Right. Yeah, and you can lose your ass on a pool
for sure.
You're just rushing it. And I know that's I saw one of your Instagram posts. It's like your MO is quality over quantity. So I'm assuming you're trying to take these projects kind of like 1 to 2 pools at a time and not taking on like a whole bunch all at once.
Yeah, we do about 4 a month. I tell a lot of my prospective clients, like my size is my strength. I don't want to be big.
That's still pretty good. 4 a month. That's still, I mean, the types of pools that you're building, that's still quite a bit.
4 pools a month is a good kind of rate for us at this time. Obviously you'd love to do 10 a month, to still deliver like that really consistent high quality every time. We've got to keep the numbers pretty tight as far as the volume we do.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure. So what happens after that? You go out, meet with them, and then what?
Yeah, so we go out, meet with them. We'll either do the second consultation with the design, either at their house or at our office, whatever's easiest for the client. One thing I did find going from my dad's company to Pure Design, my new company, is it's just a different clientele, and they think in like bigger dollar amounts and stuff. And so, I could remember at my dad's place, somebody would get mad, about a pool price being 500 or 1,000 more than the next guy. But like at Pure Design, it's like, you take something to a client, they're like, okay, go find 60K or go find 70K out of this project. And you're like, oh, wow. So it's like just kind of a different thing. But yeah, so a lot of our clients, they got very busy schedules, so we'll tend to meet them on site. And then really right now with COVID, it's got everything backed up it's hard to even get pools dug right now. So,
and is Pure Design kind of attracting a different type of clientele as Hauk Pools was?
Definitely. We don't really have anybody that finances pools. Most of our clients are paying cash for the projects, which has been a dream, been really nice.
That's awesome.
It's just like you said, it's just a different clientele. Downtown Dallas and that Highland Park, Preston Hollow area, they don't really care so much about the cost as they do the look. Like there's a very specific look. Like it's the weirdest thing. There's a certain highway that runs east and west in DFW. And when you get north of that highway, like everybody loves travertine paver decks. But you get south of that highway, everybody loves architectural, clean concrete, and it's just the taste and the style. It's the weirdest thing, but it's like a line almost. So I think the people down there are a little more fluent than when I was working with my dad. So that's been a double-edged sword. It's good to have affluent clients, but they also expect a hell of a lot more than your client that's buying a $40,000 or $50,000 pool.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier that people are moving their manufacturing to Texas and some of those areas. And a lot of those people have great jobs with Toyota and things like that. So has that changed things in the area?
Definitely. Yeah. So with Toyota and State Farm and some of these other big corporations relocating to DFW, it has completely changed the landscape for us. Everything from schools to roads, infrastructure, it's a lot of people with those companies. And so it's been great for the pool business. So I compound that with COVID, it's been a pretty busy couple of years for us. But I think a lot of people are, kind of looking to the Midwest and the Dallas area as kind of the new frontier. We're having a lot of people move from California and different places like that.
Right. And I'm sure you really enjoy that style better, right? Were you looking for that? Were you looking for a clientele that was into the sort of the same style that you're into?
Definitely. I tell people up front when they call me, like, if you want a waterfall pool, I'm probably not the best designer for you. Not that I haven't built a lot of waterfall pools. My heart's not in it. They just seem simple, to me. I like the really modern, clean, contemporary stuff. So a lot of our clients find us because we have that certain look that I think they want to replicate.
Yeah. That's got to be awesome. Yeah,
it is. Having clients that have good budgets and good taste are all you can ask for as a pool designer.
Yeah,
it's the biggest blessing I think we have is got a lot of clients with good taste.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about a recent project that you completed that you're kind of stoked about? Kind of curious as to what it looks like. What kind of tiles you putting on it?
We use a lot of Oceanside, a lot of Island Stone. Piazza tiles, great as well. We love using them. Light streams.
Yeah, they're all awesome.
They are. And I've been in that world where we use cheap tile and man, it's sad. It just falls apart. And I think if you do it right, it definitely should last a little bit better. I'm no Jamie Reed or anybody by that, when it comes to the tile side of things, but I definitely know enough to be dangerous. And I think buying a high quality tile is where it all starts.
Yeah, especially if you're into like concrete as well. Island Stone has a ton of really cool stonework and different things that they have that kind of has that sort of concrete aesthetic.
Yeah, concrete's become really popular. We're seeing a lot of people do concrete countertops on outdoor kitchens, concrete fire pits. It's become kind of a new look because everybody wants seamless. Like nobody wants grout lines anywhere. So we're trying to make things as seamless as possible, and poured concrete really does give it that look.
I love concrete.
I do too.
Me too.
Even if it's like kind of pitted, it's not completely smooth. It's just kind of just raw. And yeah, it's awesome. Love it.
Yeah. As long as people, like the clients, understand that like it's not a Van Gogh, it's not a grand piano, like it's going to have imperfections in it, but if the client gets it, then usually you'll be all right.
But that's part of why it looks the way that it does. You know, it's not set in a mold or anything like that. It's supposed to kind of have some of these little imperfections. But
tell us about your team there. You have a team, right?
Yeah. So Kevin Sullivan and Peter Jackson couldn't do what we do at Pure without those two. I knew Peter back in college. His family owned a jewelry store in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And so he kind of always grew up around the whole, watches and rings and high-end type clientele. So I knew he'd be a great fit for the pool industry. And so he's been wonderful to have on board. He's a unicorn in a sense that he's extremely OCD and organized, but he also has very good design taste and is a very talented designer. Usually when you meet a designer, it's like one end or the other. Like they're not organized at all. Like everything's a hot mess, but they're really good, or vice versa. So over the years at my dad's company, that's one of the things I really noticed a lot when I'd see designers come in and out is like, either they have it or they don't. And he was kind of the only one that I ever met over the years that, kind of had both, the organization side of things and the design side of things.
Well put. Yeah, that's what it seems like, right? Always missing something. And they're perfect. A week goes by, and maybe there's a crazy ex-wife or girlfriend that's, at the shop
something.
being like, oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, and Kevin Sullivan is, he's worked with me for a long time. Kevin was actually one of the first pool studio designers in the United States, so he's been around that software for a long time. And, Kevin really just kind of runs the books, does stuff internally for us. So we kind of keep him in his cage, every day at work, and me and Peter out in the field. But it's definitely a tripod. I think if you kick one leg out, we'd all fall because we all kind of work together.
Yeah, you need a good team around you for sure. You talk about your philosophy and kind of your process there a little bit.
Yeah, so we try to promote transparency as much as possible. You see a lot of big custom home builders go into this model of cost plus. When you start breaking $1 million or $2 million on a house, you almost have to go to like a cost plus system because it's hard to keep up with everything. The environment I was raised in, and I learned pools with my dad, it was always like a big, like, hey, here's your pool design, here's a big retail number, let's go, baby. And you, as the client, they never really knew where their money was going necessarily. So I never liked that. I never liked to have to like do math in my head of like, okay, costs, margin it, okay, then give the client the price. I'd just rather be honest. And so I started a couple of years ago just being transparent, and I show my profit like on every job. Like I build a big spreadsheet for them. I show them true cost numbers, and I'll say, okay, we're going to make, $30K on this one or $40K on this job, whatever it is, and just show the client. And I found that like, it's awesome because like they don't really negotiate with you. It's kind of hard to negotiate with somebody's like what they make. You can't really negotiate that very easily versus like when you get into some of these big retail numbers, it's a lot easier to negotiate dollar value versus somebody's time. And a lot of these pools, when I look at, okay, how much profit does the house need to make on this job or whatever, I look at how much time is in it because I know that, I'm going to be going out to that house at least 3 to 5 times a week minimum. That's an easy week. So when you kind of do that math, that's kind of the thought process behind some of these bigger jobs.
Yeah, I really like that. I like the honesty, and I think when you get to that clientele, they really appreciate that. I mean, that's a big difference. I think we notice that in our clients up north too, that, they just want to be taken care of. It's a much different conversation than the other.
Well, and like when things do go south, which we all know in the pool industry that it happens all the time on jobs, it's a lot easier conversation with the client, like, hey, here's what we quoted, here's what was included. It's very black and white, and people tend to get it when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Does a client usually have some kind of relationship with each one of you?
A lot of our leads, we get some on the internet through the website, but most of them are just like builder leads or referrals. A lot of second and third time pool buyers. We don't really do a ton of first time pool buyers anymore. That's where a lot of our stuff comes from. Did I answer that question right? Sorry.
Yeah. So you had mentioned to me before that each one of you can do a little bit of everything where you're, you could be designing a pool, but you might be out in the field. You might sell the pool, but you still might be in the field, helping out where you're needed. So I was just curious because usually when somebody buys a pool, they might just have that relationship with the salesperson. They're kind of the go-to person for all communication, but do they usually have everybody's cell phone number or everybody's email in terms of, the three of you?
Yeah, usually we kind of have like a one throat to choke philosophy, for the process. From the time we meet you at your house for the first appointment to the time where I toss you the keys at the end and everything's working, you'll have one point of contact. A lot of our clients know all three of us, so they kind of know we're all there. So like today, for example, coming out here to see you guys, like just texted all my clients, said, hey, Pete's going to be, running your stuff while I'm gone. And it's just an easy little transition. But yeah, that's kind of, the clients know who we all are, but I don't know if they necessarily have like a day-to-day relationship with all three of us.
Right.
It's really just the designer kind of carrying the ball throughout the whole process.
Sure. I think you guys have a really cool looking brand. Even the sign that says Design Life in the front yard. Yeah. I think that is like just really cool. Like the sign it just looks clean and the brand looks really good and the website looks really good. Is that something that has, been a focus from the beginning?
For sure. Yeah. We got with a great marketing company called Misfit Brands out of Dallas. And that was kind of, in my mind, something that's very important from like day one is like everything's got to look a certain way and it's got to be consistent. You see a lot of pool companies that like you can totally tell they got a free logo online, or you could tell they've changed it a million times and everything's not consistent. So I knew from the get-go I wanted to have a look. I didn't really know what that look was. I just knew that I needed to find somebody smarter than me to find that look. And so Misfit did a great job at capturing that. So it kind of has like, we wanted to have like a little bit of like kind of wanted to buck the system a little bit in the sense that like we're doing things on Cost Plus, we're involved. We don't have any project managers, we're trying to really kind of be a little different pool company. So we wanted the brand to kind of look different too and have a different look to it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like this timeless outdoor tech kind of vibe, all sort of meshed into one. It's really cool.
Yeah, those yard signs are a funny story. Peter, our lead designer, he's brilliant on the design side of things. And so in the early days, him and I were like, okay, let's go get a yard sign. Dude, he goes out and like goes by, it's like stainless steel hardware, like goes to a plasma machine, like cuts out this thing. The thing weighed like 80 pounds. It was like the heavy, like I was afraid I was gonna hit a sprinkler line, like when I stuck it in the ground, it was so heavy, but it looked cool, and so we've now revised those signs where I think we got the cost down to like $80 a piece, which is still really high for a yard sign. But we wanted something that just kind of oozed quality from the street. When you look at it, like, oh, even their yard signs are a little different.
Yeah, but they definitely look like it.
Yeah,
it looks like it should probably cost more than $80, to be honest.
Yeah, they're powder coated and heavy duty. Yeah,
very cool.
Hey, pool chasers, are you looking to invest in your business after a big summer? Well, if you've been thinking about adding leak detection as a service offering, now is the time to get connected with Anderson Manufacturing to find the equipment and resources you need to get started. Anderson is a source leak pros trust because of their honest advice and tools that get the job done right. This year, to better connect with you during an uncertain trade show season, they are offering one-on-one video conferences to bring the show experience to you. Schedule a time now to learn about leak detection opportunities, see live product demonstrations, and put together an equipment package to fit your needs. They even have show specials that are available for a limited time. To learn more and sign up for a meeting, visit leaktools.com/show. That's leaktools.com/show, or click the link below.
So let's talk about Elemental Acrylic, which is another company that you own. Maybe you can talk to us about how you even got into that, and then we can jump into some of the details of it.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. It's a relatively new company. We just this is, I guess, kind of the soft launch here, talking to you guys. I really haven't told a ton of people about it. But yeah, it's an acrylic installation company. We did our first acrylic job. Actually, the first pool that Pure ever built was an acrylic pool, which is kind of a crazy one for your first pool. And so we ordered it through the big manufacturer here in the United States that everybody is pretty familiar with. Just the process kind of lacked, they'll ship you glass, but like, how do you set it up at dig? Like, what do you tell your steel guy? Like, How do you tie things? Like, they'll give you a drawing, sure, but there's still nothing like somebody who's actually done it before going out there to do it for you. So the first one that we did was like a super expensive learning period for us. It was a tough one. We made some mistakes. I saw where areas of the install process could be improved. Because we kind of learned it hard knocks method, our first one, we posted up some pictures of it. And, being that I'm from the pool industry in that area and everybody kind of knows, my last name, my family, as soon as that picture dropped of this acrylic pool we did, I got like phone call after phone call after phone call from like local pool builders around me. Like, hey, dude, I saw that picture. Like, how did you do that? And like the first 2 or 3, like I kind of told them how I did it and what went into it. But then like light bulb went off. I'm like, why am I telling people this? Like, just call me next time. Let me streamline your process for you, and let me turnkey the whole deal. Because I know, as coming from my dad's company, where you have 8 sales people that are designers, dude, those people don't have time to think about that. Like, they just want to sell the pool and go on to the next job. And so that's where we come in. And I kind of found this need for somebody to go in and think for people on how to install these, because they're really not too crazy complicated, but there's a little bit of work. I mean, it's going to burn up, 4 days of your time if you go out there and try to install it yourself. So that's kind of how it came about. We're really competitive regionally. So Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, anything that's within a 10 to 12 hour driving distance, we're extremely competitive on the installs. But I also think too, acrylic's big. You look at everything with COVID now, and you have panels up in front of cash registers. And so I think it could be something that's not just pools,
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm,
definitely.
for sure.
Yeah, it's popping. So what does that look like? Say I'm a builder and I want to put some acrylic on my pool. What does that process look like on my end? I'm just trying to get a feel for the difference, because you're saying before, when you would get acrylic, you weren't getting everything, where it was the acrylic with the installation. You were just getting one thing and maybe some paperwork or just a little, some information on installation methods. But maybe you could just walk through, if I wanted some acrylic for a pool I'm building or a spa, like what?
Yeah, so I mean, it's relatively simple. Reach out to us, Elemental Acrylic, either our Instagram, our website, Facebook, whatever, however you can. Send over your plans, give me some 3D renderings. Let me look at the access in the backyard. One of the things that a lot of guys don't consider is, how do you get something like that into a backyard? And depending on if it's on a rooftop, or if, we've got one in Dallas right now, we're about to do the panels just a hair under 30 feet long. We're going to have to rent a crane to get that one up and over the house. So,
because they're extremely heavy.
Extremely heavy. Like an 8-foot section of, 2.5 to 3 inch glass will take 8 guys to carry it in a backyard. So it's just dense and kind of awkward and big, and it comes on this big pallet and stuff. And so, the hard part about acrylic, in my opinion, is setting it up at excavation and steel and gunite. Like, as a builder, you'll have to try to imagine in your head where that line's going to be. And the only way we can really do it is with string lines. So we'll put up string lines and kind of talk it through with the builder and make sure that we're on the same page. When I did my first install, what I found to be frustrating is, the glass company didn't really send anybody out until after I already gun-eyed the pool. Well, by that point, you're kind of already too late. And if it's not right, guess what? You're breaking out the jackhammer.
Right.
So for me, I saw a need for builders just to kind of turnkey that process and not think about it. Because, I know as a pool company owner, you're doing a million things every day, and it's kind of hard to stop and wipe 4 days off your schedule to install an acrylic panel.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense that you need to get those plans over before doing anything, because you're probably going to have some tips on what to do when the guys are, when they start doing shotcrete or whatever they're doing. Because, it's got to be right on the money, right?
It does. I mean, there's literally like a 3/4 of an inch variation that I can make work. But anything outside of 3/4 of an inch, I mean, you're ordering a new piece of glass, and they're not cheap.
Right. And what's the turnaround right now to get something like that? Has it been pretty tight?
It hasn't been as bad as other areas of the pool industry. Let's just say not as bad as pool heaters right now. Usually to get a piece of glass is usually 6 to 8 weeks. I can get it there. The big thing is just get with us sooner than later. If you're a builder out there listening and you're thinking you're going to do acrylic, get us involved in the design process. Like, even if you don't sell it, like, get me involved early. Let me kind of talk to you and talk you through the thought process and help you derive an accurate price, because we all know when things go out of budget, especially on something that pricey, is not fun.
Sure. And do you have any, tips, do's and don'ts for pool service technicians or service companies that are now looking at some of these pools with acrylic and how to just care for them?
Yeah. Don't ever use a Brillo pad to clean it, because they get this little hazy, like kind of haziness. You see them on like aquariums and stuff sometimes, and they just they're not really dirty. They just look kind of hazy. We've had experiences in the past where people have like taken Brillo pads to them and just scratched the heck out of them. You don't want to do that. Use a microfiber towel, soap, water. That's the only secret sauce.
Yeah.
And the other thing I tell builders and maintenance and service technicians as well is, if you do have to clean a window, and you'd think this would be common sense, but if you do have to clean a window, drain the pool and do both sides. A lot of guys will just clean the outside, like, oh, it's still hazy. Well, there's an inside too. So there's a little bit of work. You got to drain the pool down. In some cases, depending on where the window's located, to really thoroughly clean it on both sides, it might be a new startup, and go ahead and start the pool up and start over and balance it.
Yeah, I would think it'd be a good practice to do it. What do you think? Maybe once a month, or even if it's not dirty, just to stay on top of it and be proactive so that it's not getting a lot of buildup.
I say once every 4 or 5 months, if you want to be proactive. Yeah, I mean, they're usually pretty low maintenance for the most part.
But chemistry, it
chemistry
differs.
has a lot to do with it. Calcium
Exactly.
has a lot to do with it too.
You're in a place that has really hard water, just not taking care of the water. But I would imagine that somebody that has acrylic on their pool is doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And letting the service company do what they need to do.
Yeah, most of them, they don't care about cleaning it.
Yeah.
Somebody else does that.
Drain it every month. I don't care.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah, the acrylic's been a fun ride for sure. It's it's different for me because I'm so used to building and designing pools, so it's a whole different animal, the whole business to business thing. But I mean, I love meeting other pool builders from other parts of the country and hearing how they do things, and to me, it's really fascinating.
Right. And how are people using acrylic these days? I'm sure you've been looking at tons of images all over the place, but what are some of the trending ways, I guess, that people are actually using it?
When you do like a reverse beam, or like you step down on the side of a pool and the pool stays up at the higher elevation, doing that beam out of glass is extremely popular. I'd say that's probably the easiest install application. If you're somebody out there wanting to maybe do your first acrylic job, step down on one side of the pool and just do something simple.
What does that look like?
Like if you have a pool up here at this elevation, you have stairs that come down, you got the side of the pool that's exposed.
Right.
So you'd put a window on that side where stone would normally go.
Oh, okay.
So like that's probably the easiest kind of, if you're kind of looking to get your feet wet in acrylic as a designer, that might be a good first step. Where acrylic gets really complicated is on the design side is when we start turning corners. So think about your supports, your columns. I mean, that's a lot. Water's heavy, and that's a lot of weight you're holding back. So when you start turning corners, things exponentially get expensive on our side.
And you got a lot more to lose, right? I mean, that could be a very expensive piece of acrylic that if it doesn't work out and something goes wrong, it's a much bigger loss.
And the acrylic manufacturer, there are no returns.
That's right. All sales are final.
50 down when you order it, and it's 50 when they deliver it, and then that's it. Yeah, so it's definitely different. And again, just circles in general, will also add costs. So if you can keep whatever acrylic you're designing in a straight line, it'll definitely reduce cost.
Nice. What are some of the recent projects you've done?
We did one on the 27th floor of a building in downtown Dallas in a district called Victory Park. And that was an all-glass spa. That was a really fun one to do. We had some oceanside tile on the back, and it turned out beautiful.
Is that the one that had right next to it had like a
the
wood panel?
The Ipe.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, the whole thing, the view, the acrylic, it all just looked badass.
Oh yeah, it's a really cool one. In fact, I put that. I sent you guys that video too. It was a really cool video we did up there. But he's a bachelor. I get a few clients a year. I call them bachelors with no budgets, and he was one of them. He was a single guy and just impeccable taste. In an entire apartment. It looked great.
Wow. So you just got to crane that thing up there, right?
Yeah, there were some logistics. I mean, just being up on the top floor like that, I mean, everything's different, from the plumbing to everything's different. So I definitely prefer working on pools that are on ground level for sure. Truth be told, I'm terrified of heights. So like the first couple of times up there, I'm like, I am not going to the edge. 'Cause I really don't like heights. So, but no, it turned out great. And we got a couple other big ones that Pure Design's working on right now, and with Elementals, because they're kind of sister companies. So a lot of our designs at Pure incorporate acrylic just because, we're kind of doing it. So we're seeing it's a pretty big trend. There's a lot of people asking for it. But it's different. Like you got to think about things like plumbing, like doing big acrylic, like how do you hide jets and where do you run plumbing when you have a big void in the pool that's transparent like that? So that's something else that you have to kind of think about as a designer builder, because
it magnifies it too, like depending on where it's at. If you've got a big in-floor head right there, it's gonna magnify that. Look like your kids are leaving all their little circle toys all over the pool.
Well, and like little things that like I see, like I did one the other day, we just put water in it and it's like a sunken fire pit area with an acrylic panel. So like when you're sitting in the fire pit, you're kind of below the pool and you can see like through the acrylic. And I mounted my drains up on the wall, which it's cool. I normally always do that. But like one drain's like 6 inches lower than the other. And it's like one of those things, I would have never saw it if I didn't have the acrylic panel there, Right. And like, it doesn't bother me. Client never said anything. I would say it bothers me. The client didn't say anything about it, but it's just one of those things that you look at that, every time we do an acrylic job, I look at them a little different. Like, okay, what did I do on the last one that I don't want to do on this one? And I think that's where something like Elemental Acrylic is valuable to a lot of builders in the area. Is we've done it, we've done it, been there, got the t-shirt, so let us think through it for you.
You put like a little bit of cardboard or something underneath your chair to just tilt your view a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's straight.
It's kind of straight. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Don't bring the OCD guy there.
I know. Yeah. Old Pedro, old Pete. Yeah.
Very cool. So how can people get in touch with, you and your companies?
Sure. Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, puredesign.life. Elemental Acrylic is also linked to that website as well, so you can check that out. My Instagram, Nick Hauk, Hauk. I mean, really a lot of ways to get a hold of us. But yeah, reach out to us. If you're a builder that has a job with acrylic, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call and talk you through it. So we're definitely available.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out here. This was a really fun talk. Learned a lot about you, older companies, newer companies, all that fun stuff. So we really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me out.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for checking out this episode. Did you know that each episode has its own page on our website? This is where you can find more information about the guest and episode topic, as well as all the resources that we discuss throughout the show. To get to the webpage, click the link below. Also below, you will find links to the sponsors of the show, as well as links to follow us on our social media channels. On our channels, you will find some of our favorite clips and bonus material. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. We also have a Facebook group for the Pool Chasers community. Here you will find like-minded professionals all looking to make each other better. One last thing. If the episode has brought you value, please check out our Patreon page to support us. And if you could please rate and review the podcast, we would love to hear what your favorite topics are. Thank you for your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.